Hello everyone, I am teacher Park Seni, the representative of Park Seni Mind Coaching. Today, I'd like to talk to you all about responsibility. You have a sense of responsibility? Do you have it? If you don't have responsibility, it would be hard to succeed in your student life. If your sense of responsibility isn't strong, you won't be able to be a good mom or dad. If your sense of responsibility isn't outstanding, you won't be able to become a great leader, and living a wonderful life will be practically impossible. So everyone, what is responsibility? I always ask you to keep this in mind. You can only truly explain something when you can explain it to others. It has value as knowledge. So what is responsibility? Actually, I don't think I had a strong sense of responsibility when I was young. I think I did it moderately, just like most people. But after I realized it, I really knew what responsibility was, and I approached it with that in mind. And I really feel responsible for what I do and how I help students become great talents for the country. Let me tell you the meaning of responsibility. What is the word for responsibility in English? It's responsibility. So, you notice that the words response and ability are combined, right? We combine things like this. So, response means to react, and ability means capability. When you combine reacting and capability, you can interpret it as the ability to respond well. If you don't quite get it right away, please listen carefully to my explanation. I have a tangerine in my hand. I drop the tangerine, then I crush it with my foot and mash it up. So what did I make? A student laughed a lot at the word juice. I made trash. I made trash by reacting strangely with the tangerine. This time with the tangerine, one person, after properly sanitizing it and blending it well in the mixer, they managed to do marketing all over the world and achieved incredible wealth. At first it was the same tangerine, but one person made trash out of it while another created wealth. So, what was the difference in between? Did you notice? So it was the response. The responses were very different. One person is ridiculous. It was a weird, almost crazy reaction that created trash, and one person was able to properly. You're living a great life by executing things well. So, how is your life shaped by the external conditions and stimuli that can change at any moment? It's about the response. So, you really need to respond well. In fact, we don't really need to blame others, because everything depends on the reaction. If you get a good reaction from your reaction, then you got a good result. If you get a bad reaction, or a regrettable reaction from your reaction, then you just got a bad result. So, you always need to think about how important it is to respond well. Even though they took the same classes at a prestigious academy, their grades were completely different. If the results came out differently, what was different? It was the attitude in class, the proactive approach, and the psychological state that led to different responses, which is why the grades were completely different. Even in the same company, under the same conditions, it all comes down to who provided a more appropriate and meaningful response. This is how everything leads to results on a different level. So remember this, keep it in mind. Instead of blaming others, when you carefully check that your responses are correct and wise, you can transform into a more amazing person. So, think about it. How can we respond well? It really depends on the situation. And the reaction was actually correct. There won't be anyone who doesn't want to do it. You want to respond in a great and correct way, right? So, how can we respond better? The answer to this is likely something like this. We must continue to nurture in our children from a young age the essential truths and values that are so fundamental, so valuable, and so meaningful that they can be internalized 90% subconsciously. Only then, if some situation or condition suddenly comes at you, will you be able to respond correctly without deviating from the right truths or principles. This way, people will recognize and accept those who can respond appropriately, leading to better opportunities and outcomes. So, a person should always strive to be wise. Unlike animals, humans need to keep thinking and constantly refine what correct, valuable, and meaningful thoughts are. It's not just about getting older. You need to train yourself so that in any situation or condition, you can respond in a more meaningful way. In fact, if your life is determined by your responses, then there are definitely scores for each of those responses. It's obvious that those who respond well and score high will live more beautifully. All right, everyone, let me ask you a question. What did I do that caused this to happen? So whose responsibility is that? It's my responsibility. But the truth is, not all adults take full responsibility for the consequences of their actions. For example, there are people who scratch someone else's car in a parking lot and just run away if there are no security cameras. That's why we need legal systems like black boxes and prisons. If someone takes 100% responsibility for what they've done, they are definitely among the admirable ones. However, even trying to reach that level requires a lot of extraordinary effort. Now here's another question. What if I didn't do something, and as a result, something happened? Whose responsibility is that? Are you having a hard time answering? Please consider that from now on, that too is my responsibility. Only then can you make greater progress. I didn't do something, so what happened? You need to think of it as your responsibility in order to truly grow. If, in my 20s, I didn't learn proper wisdom from a strong mentor. For example, I looked at some amazing books, but wasn't prepared. I didn't gain that ear. Only those who believe that everything is their own responsibility will truly grow. When I was younger, I don't think I had any particularly grand thoughts, but, fortunately, starting in my early 20s, I began to realize that even things that happened because I didn't do something were, indeed, my responsibility. I started to see more clearly what is most important, what is valuable, and what is absolutely essential and meaningful. By focusing on those priorities in order, I was able to create a psychology class in the academy that didn't exist in our country at the time, and I was able to pay off my father's debt of over 200 million won in my 20s. This allowed me to live confidently as an expert in my field. So, let me say it again. You need to make internal attributions psychologically in order to grow. If you keep attributing every incident to external factors, you'll only end up with more excuses as you get older and as time goes by. So, always, remember that I hold the key to every problem, and by changing my inner self and my mindset as much as possible, I can alter my reactions and make all the outcomes even better. Believe in this. Absolutely. And don't waver, so succeed in an even more impressive way. So raising your grades is really an easy task, and you are someone who can achieve even greater things beyond that. All right, that's it for today. Thank you.